Hi everyone, it's me, it's Coffee Stitcher. Um, that actually worked very well. Um, I'm doing sort of a random update of sorts. This is, and I've talked about doing this for a while, this is going to be a discussion on chart alterations. And it's going to be part of a series because I'm going to kind of do one of these videos every time I update this project. So I'm just going to kind of jump right in. Because this will be one of my active whips, but it's one that I'm going to try and really focus on just doing one a month. It's probably going to take a while before it's done, but we'll see. Who knows? As many of you know, I have many Frosted Pumpkin stitchery projects. And as many of you also know, and if you don't, then I don't know where you've been, I like to alter charts. I like to make them my own. And it's never meant as to be an insult to the designer. Because if I look at something and I just hate it, I'm not going to stitch it. So it's already something I like. It's just something I'm tailoring to my own specific interests, because no designer can tailor to everybody's specific interests. No one human being can. So it's not meant to be an insult to them, and it's not meant to say that I think they did it wrong. Just that I wanted to do something different. So, and as long-time viewers will know, my original Once Upon a Time, which was actually, I think, the third project. It was either the third or the fourth project I started. Because Emerald City was first, Dorothy was second, Good Witch, Bad Witch was third, fourth was the Mysterious Halloween Town. So I guess number 5 was Once Upon a Time. And the fabric was too short. It was also 14 count Aida because I was a noob and I was like, I only want to stitch on Aida because I'm scared of other things. And I made a lot of mistakes on it. There were things I did that I was never really a fan of. As you also know, I have the Storytime sampler. I chose fabric that I thought was nice and library-ish, and it fought me the entire way through in terms of color. And I finally just was like, I need to restart both of these. And in the meanwhile, I had discovered the beauty and wonder of higher count fabrics, particularly 40 count. And also the beauty and wonder that is Gentle Arts. So I decided I was going to do them both over in Gentle Arts and on 40 count linen. So I bought doubloon, which was actually the color it was charted on, but I bought the non-crystal kind because I didn't want to do it on crystal, because I thought I can add my own bling to it and not make it super blingy. Where am I on? As well as, I think it's just like a neutral sort of ivory cream color for Storytime. And I was talking to a Stitch in Time, and there'd been a lot of ideas bounced back and forth about the old Once Upon a Time, what I might do with it. And one of the things that sort of came out of it was, I was talking about how, you know, I liked Snow White a lot, and I liked a lot of the fairy tales, but the ones that I consider to be more nursery stories, like Three Little Pigs, or The Broom and Ton Musicians, the things where you can't really make more than about a 15 to 20 minute adaptation of, I wasn't really wild about those. And it just, in general, I wasn't necessarily wild about all of them, and I wasn't really looking forward to restitching those. And she said, well, what if you took, or she said, well, since you're going to be redoing this from the beginning, what if you put Oz in for one of the months? And I went, Or, what if I just make a hybrid, and I'm calling it OUATSTS. OUATSTS. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a hybrid, and I have started it. I will not on my blog be posting more than just a, hey, I've got a mini finish, because, well, yes, I could still probably get in trouble for it here. On a blog where there's details and color names and things like that, I run the risk of someone copying it or someone trying to say that I'm trying to sell the chart, which I'm not. On things like when I color converted the little Stitcher Wizard of Oz, that, because the pattern was essentially intact, minus two or three small tweaks that I did, it was color conversion. This is recharting. And because I'm also kind of Disneyfying them. That being said, under fair use, since I'm not selling this, and it is for my own personal use, I can do it. So I don't want to hear copyright police stuff. And quite honestly, Disney has a lot better things to do with their time than come after me for stitching a Snow White for myself to hang in my room. They do. Again, if I were selling it, if I were making copies available to people, if I was going, hey, here's how I did this, then yes. So, yes, they would. But we aren't going to have that issue here. So, let's kind of get started. Because I will not be showing you my final chart, and I can only show you a completed picture of their original chart, it's going to be, you're going to kind of have to go on good faith with how some of this came into effect. So, you probably all saw the top border already. I left the dark blue and the dark magenta color are just straight, and the gray and the towers are just a straight color conversion. The gold, the lighter purple, and the lighter blue were changes done by me because it has that illuminated manuscript look, but I thought it was missing something by all being monochromatic, pretty much just the blue and the red with the gray for the words. So that's why I changed that. You can also see that I changed the text because I wanted it to be more fanciful. I kind of got the idea from Kiara, who charted hers, I believe, after her own handwriting, and it looks really, really awesome. So I borrowed that idea from her. Also, Kiara, I miss you, just to reiterate. And the border will be basically left intact. I did, and you'll see it in just a second, I did go ahead and I actually deleted one square, or one little X, from the border, because I thought it looked a little better without it. It visually broke things up better. So, all of the this Frosted Pumpkin chart in particular, crap, I've lost it now. Oh, there we go. Used the sort of gray color to denote the months. Mine is not going to be a monthly sampler, so therefore I took out the months. I'm not the only one who did this. I've seen several very creative people either do the title of the story or quotes from the story. I've seen Mirror Mirror for Snow White. I saw Fairest of Them All. And I kind of like those ideas. However, mine currently does not have them. The reason being, it'll have to be done either 1/1 or backstitched, and I'm not sure if I can really make that work in every month, and I'm not sure I'll have the space for it in every month. So, unless it's a story that I think is ridiculously cryptic, which there shouldn't be any of them, I don't think I'm going to include the titles. So their original chart, and this is taken from Instagram. This is Claire Hollins's photo. So Claire, I don't know if you will ever see this video, but I borrowed your photo because I needed one to show, and because I don't have a completed one of the original design. This was the best I could do. So there's the original. As you can see, it's got the bottle of soap and laundry basket and the magic mirror and some soap bubbles and some sort of white little X's and a clothesline and two dwarves, and then the apple in various stages of being consumed. And of course, our leading lady, Miss Snow White. I was going to keep some of the little white feelies, which you can see them. There's one right above my finger. And I'm sorry, I know this is a really terrible way of trying to show it, but there's one there, and I can't reach that high with my finger. There's one there. There's like 6 of them throughout the thing. I was originally going to keep those as well, and I still may. However, I wanted to see, because I felt like if I did it in one, I should try and incorporate it through them all. So if I can't figure out how to do it through them all, then I'm just not going to do it. So we shall see. And I'm scrolling back through to find pictures of things as I recharted them, so I can sort of visually describe my changes. I think this was the first. So, one of the first things I did was I automatically swapped out January, and I did 1/1 Snow White. And I did it in gold. And I did actually keep that for a while. And eventually one of the main reasons I dropped it was I was having trouble finding a gold color that in 1/1 was actually showing up on the fabric. For another, I was having some trouble making the 1/1 actually look good. I tried 10th stitch, and that didn't look right. I tried full cross stitch, and that really didn't look right. Which is part of why I'm a little reluctant to go back and do the titles. Initially, I decided that because I really didn't feel like laundry had a lot to do with the story of Snow White, that I was going to try and convert it. And I was going to try and leave as much intact as possible. So my original first attempt was I turned the clothes basket into a minecart. And then I left the apples where they were. I hadn't really decided what I was going to turn the soap bottle into. That was sort of up in the air. I was thinking maybe a wishing well, because I did that on my first version. I knew I wanted to carry over from my original. I wanted to carry over the Evil Queen and the Magic Mirror. And I knew I wanted to carry over Snow White being redesigned to look like Disney. So those were already planned to stay. I had decided that I was not going to do colored eyes for the characters. I ultimately decided that it really kind of looks odd since they don't have pupils. So I left them black. I did borrow an idea from Soda Stitch, and to create eyelashes are 2 straight stitches coming diagonally from the inner corner of the eye above the eye, because it gives you a more fluid look to it. It looks much more natural. And that I was going to take the cheeks used in the Storytime sampler. So the cheeks are like right next to the eyes, whereas in my original they were usually a row down and parallel to the eyes. So instead they're diagonal to them. So those were the changes I did there. Or those are the changes I knew I was going to keep intact. So once I got rid of the laundry basket, and I was originally going to turn the clothesline, trying to keep the same shape, into Cinderella's glass casket. That worked badly. I could not come up with anything that made that look like it was a casket and wouldn't have been ridiculous to stitch. So I thought, okay, well, the cottage is really important to the story, so what if I put a cottage in there? And so I tried, in the same space, to redo the cottage, and that also turned out to be a problem. And I thought, you know what, I really want this cottage. So I decided, what if I take the cottage from Jack and the Beanstalk and put it in? And it was the perfect width, but it was too tall. So that meant that I needed to do something with the apple. So I moved the apple to where the soap bottle was, which then meant that I needed to convert all of the soap bubbles into being diamonds. And then I converted one dwarf to look like Dopey and one dwarf to look like Doc, because they're the two most important dwarves. So I did that, and I put my queen in, and I kind of based the idea on the magic mirror off of the Disney magic mirror. And I took pictures and kind of sent it to a few of my friends and was like, hey, what do you think of this? And they all reacted relatively positive. So I got started, and like I said, I had one hiccup after another on it. And I had a lot of trouble getting the chart, blah, blah, blah. So then I started playing with it some more. And I ultimately decided that because the Storytime sampler is really very, like, scene-heavy, meaning it looks like it's a scene from the book, and the Snow White one is sort of, was very abstract. It was an abstracted design. So I thought, alright, we need to do something. So I moved the house, or I did a whole bunch of moving. The mirror and the apple got moved up to the upper right corner, and the layout basically stayed the same after this. I moved the house as far over as I could. I put the two dwarves down on the same level as Snow White, and I put the minecart behind Dopey. And then I put the words above the house. And that basically stayed like that for a while. And I stitched up Snow White. And then I thought, you know what would make this look more scenic, given, again, the way the Storytime ones have gone, is this needs some grass and a path. And some flowers. So I put grass under the house, under the cottage. I put a little path leading up to the door. And then I took out all the diamonds, and left the little white parts, the X's and plus signs. I left them there. And that continued on for a while. I don't know why I took a close-up of that. So then I started in on that. Well, at one point when I was showing the house to Angie, she said, oh, you should put a little pickaxe on a tree stump. And I thought, ooh, that's a good idea. So it got a little tree stump and a little pickaxe, courtesy of Angie. And so I started, and while I was doing all of my preliminary work, and I did the grass, the wonderful Christy Harris, who I don't really think actually watches the videos, but she's really a very, very wonderful person, posted some photos of things she'd done called thread painting, which is also known as long and short stitches, apparently. And it creates this, you basically stitch randomly along a sort of, to fill in, it's an embroidery technique. I think it's a little similar to crewel work, but I don't really know for sure. It looks really awesome, and it gives you great textures. And so I decided, well, I want to do that. And I thought that would be perfect for the thatched roof. So that was where that, so I started doing that, and I did some research on, my computer went to sleep. I did some research on thatched roofs and thatched roof cottages so that I could, copy the windows, copy the doors, and it went from there. Well, the minecart, as originally designed, was the same size as the laundry basket, and it was massive, and it looked, as I started, once I got the dwarves stitched into place, I went, that massive minecart is not going to look good. It's not going to make any sense. So I did some minecart research, and I designed a smaller minecart with diamonds. And I put some glasses on dock, and I made more facial features for them. And then I stitched the glasses on dock, first with a number 4, which was too thick, and then I tried it again with a blending filament, and it just didn't look good. So I went, okay, Doc's not going to have glasses. And then I was talking to Jackie, and she said, you know what would be cute is if you had some of the diamonds on the ground, like they had fallen out of the cart. So there were diamonds on the ground, courtesy of Jackie. So then I went back and forth for a good 20 minutes on, or probably longer, sending a photo of different ideas of, should I put the Evil Queen in? And because Kiara had used the face from the mirror, which looked really cool. And I charted it up, and I switched it back and forth, and I played around with it, and I sent questions, and ultimately we decided to leave it with the Queen, because she was less ominous. Like, she fit in and was cuter. I did, however, change the apple to look like it was poisoned. And I'm looking at this now, and I just realized I didn't put the apple stem in, so I have to still put an apple stem in. So I used a darker, I actually used one shade of red from Gentle Arts. I used Buckeye Scarlet, which is a very strongly variegated but very beautiful red. So I used the darker red from it to do the outline, and then the lighter to make a sort of face, so it looked like the poisoned apple. And that is basically where we ended it with. So, I guess I will show y'all. I did the mirror, and I freehanded a lot of it. So, here it is. The finished Snow White block. And as you can see, there is still space where I could add the words if I wanted to. Here it is, zoomed in. Snow White. Which I have a little bit of trouble figuring out the color for Snow White's skirt. But I finally found one. The flower, which is a combination of the Stimson and the Lazy Daisy. My dwarves and their little minecart. The house with its paned windows, the apple, and then finally my magic mirror, which I'm really proud of. So there we go. So that's generally been my approach, is I look at it and go, what of the original design do I want to keep? What do I need to change? How do I need to change it to make it all look like it's part of a whole? And then, if I'm going to add things, what are some key things from the story that I could bring in? And then I go from there. So you can sort of, I hope this made sense. I really hope it did. The next block, officially on Once Upon a Time, was Princess and the Frog. Or, excuse me, the Frog Prince. Obviously, it's going to be redesigned to look like Princess and the Frog, which means I have to watch that movie once or twice, because I've only seen it once and didn't really enjoy it. But if I'm going to be stitching it, because I do like it, and I do want it in there, it means that I need to rewatch the damn thing. Because one of the things I would like to do is try and incorporate all of the different bad guys from the different stories into the frame somehow, if it's organic and makes sense. I don't want to just shoehorn them in. However, I'm not necessarily sure that I will do Princess and the Frog next. My next step, when it's time to rotate back to this, is going to be to look at the stories from Once Upon a Time that I'm definitely keeping, look at the ones from Storytime, and I have to play it a little slow because they haven't released, obviously we're only halfway through the year, so I don't want to accidentally say, yes, I'm definitely keeping this one, in case there's something else that I like better. So I may also do some playing around with it from there. So we'll see. Anyhow, that's really it for this video. There will be probably Thursday. I ordered some needle minders. I've ordered a couple of things that I really didn't need to order, but I did. And then I've got some regular whip updates to show you. Maybe a finish, depending on what I get accomplished on my lunch break tomorrow and what which project I work on tomorrow night. But maybe a finish, maybe not. We'll see. So anyhow, the Orange is the New Black song is coming up, but that's really for another time. So yes, so there we go. I hope everyone's having a great evening, great week, and I will see you all soon.